People of colour are most affected also by climate change, as well as women. It's a proven fact because the global south are the most affected by climate change. They are experiencing it now. I'm Parvinder, and I work in cultural and climate advocacy and programming. And I look at systems of race, gender, and faith as well within my work. In my day job, I work for the British Council, which is the UK's cultural organisation, and I design programmes where the UK can connect with Europe and South Asia. So I'm British Indian. Somebody could say, you know, do you speak on behalf of India? No, I don't, or Indian people. I would not and do not speak for people from other regions or countries. I think a lot of my work is about how they can speak for themselves and how you give them a voice. Over the last 5 years, I've worked deeply with South Asia as a region, for example, and also with Europe. And I've learned so much about myself and people within marginalised communities, people in the centres, and I do believe that we cannot speak for others within the climate conversation. What we can do is find pathways and tools and ways of communicating how people really feel and what they need within the climate crisis. They know better than us. They are at the forefront of it. Women are the worst affected by climate change. They are the biggest group of climate migrants globally, especially in the global south. They are disadvantaged. And this is an area that I'm really interested in supporting, how women can actually, have safety and also dignity within the climate conversation. That's very important to me. People of colour are most affected also by climate change, as well as women. It's a proven fact because the global south are the most affected by climate change. They are experiencing it now. You know, we need to be looking at how there is injustice within this conversation, and we won't just get to a better place because there's this conversation around equity and equality. There is no equity right now. We're not starting from the same point, and we're not connected to their stories, their ways of expressing what's happening to them. For example, in these communities in the global south, most people, they would be considered illiterate. But what is literacy? They speak in art, they speak in poetry, they speak in music, they speak in all their indigenous knowledge systems, and we need to start learning their language. That's important. We need to not put our language, it's quite a colonial way of thinking, onto them. We need to think, you know, prayers are their language. Like I said, music is their language, poetry is their language, myths, symbolism, all these things are their language. And I think the global north needs to recognise that that's how you get closer to the climate conversation and become more aware. Because in the West, we might not value the same things. We might not think of their skills as highly valuable, live in ego in a way, because there, if they build their shelter, they live in it. If they build their cooker, they use it. And if they build their toilet, they use it. And all their ecosystems are real as an active response to something that's happening in the climate crisis. Whereas we have so much time to imagine that we're never really in this condition of survival. We are not people who are really genuinely in the global north having to survive the climate crisis right now. We are completely in awareness mode, And are we preparing well enough? Because like the pandemic, it could happen tomorrow. I mean, it snowed in Rotterdam today, you know, in Amsterdam. And I can honestly tell you, people are so unprepared. They'll put pots of water thinking that the water will run out. And most cities have a water crisis, you know. And the other thing that I can add is we look at footprints a lot. And we look at carbon footprint, and we are obsessed with this idea of what's our footprint, what is it of everyone. Before a carbon footprint, there's actually a water footprint that not many people are aware of. Every material is grown before it becomes a building or it becomes a textile. And in the UK, in France, in the Netherlands, we have one of the highest virtual water footprints, which essentially means we export water one of the most, because we don't grow our own food, we don't grow our own building materials. And so this is something that I think people should be more aware of, that footprints are interesting, your own footprint is interesting. And I can honestly say that where you as an individual, your footprint is probably the most is around food and water. It's around your connection with food and water. So that's, I think, what you should look at. If you want to change your footprint, it's looking at how you eat, how you drink, your day-to-day, and I think that everything else becomes a bit of a luxury. One of the key things that the music industry can look at, I'd tap into kind of festivals, and they are such an interesting model as almost a pop-up city, because when there is a climate disaster or climate crisis, you need to think quite quickly, and you need to be able to build almost a mini city and infrastructure quite quickly. So I think there's a lot of potential for these sites to become case studies for how we build infrastructures to respond to communities. I also believe that you should not do these things as an individual. So I think one of the biggest things around responding to the climate crisis is that you don't think individualistically. You do not think that way. You only think around community-based practice. So feeding one will not save the world. Thinking more around food for a community, around how we use resources as a collective and community in these festivals and in these environments and sites is the most important thing, because the individual won't be the survivor. It will be the community and the collective, because there's much more power in that.